So I'm driving my Volkswagen down the Long Island Expressway and on my way to get tenure and thinking about that. And the thought of getting tenure is like, that means I'm going to be in the same office, teaching the same classes, I remember I was on a show with Beverly Sills, the great opera singer, who had her own TV show back then. She had a little bracelet and with crystals, little things on it, and the letters IDTA were on it. And she was interviewing me, and I finally, on the air, I asked her, IDTA, why are you wearing IDTA? I see that. She said, oh, that's just a reminder, because they were asking her, why did you leave at the height of your career, the New York Metropolitan Opera, to be, do a TV show and to be an administrator to do something else? And she said, oh, I did that already. IDTA, I already did that. And something pulled me over. Now, this same something is working in all of us. It's called your impersonal life, not your personal life, not your personality. Your personality doesn't even get to pick thoughts. You don't even know what a thought is, how to get a hold of one you can't see one, let alone a desire. These are things that are put there by the same intelligence that brought you here, and grows your fingernails. And I pulled over and I sat there, and whatever that was, it just overwhelmed me. And I said, I can't accept that tenure. I can't do this for the rest of my life. I've already been here 6 years. I've done this already. And yet, and it's what I talked about with Tracy and her, and Urban Junket and her purses and all of the things that she is doing, to do something about this planet that we live on and so on. And it was like a cloud almost. It was overwhelming, and I just knew I didn't call my wife, I didn't call my daughter, I didn't do anything. I drove right up to the university, parked my car outside, and I had my own parking place in New York. Can you imagine? I walked up to the second floor to Dean Sarah Fassenmeyer's. Amazing. This gives me memory again. It's like I can remember every detail of my life. It's like, and I walked into Dr. Fassenmeyer's office and I resigned. I had written a book called Your Erroneous Zones, and I wanted to take it across the country and do the things. And Donna worked with me every day so beautifully. Love you so much. Thank you. And invested my own money and my own time and took my daughter, and we went across the country. And one of the great definitions of success was offered by Henry David Thoreau. He said, if you advance confidently in the direction of your own dreams and endeavor to live the life which you have imagined, you will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. You have to let it chase you, that thing called success. Maslow taught me personally that self-actualizing people do not do what they do because of the outcome. They are detached from outcome. They do what they do because in their heart tells them, this is who I am. This is what I must express. And I'm independent of the good opinion of anyone else who offers their opinion to me. So, and that was a signature point in my life. Gave up tenure, a job for the rest of my life, gave up all of the guarantees, got the medical insurance, all of the things that come with but in here. And if you read I Can See Clearly Now, you're reading about someone that Thoreau said, I have notes all over the place, I was writing all kinds of things down, still haven't gotten to any of it yet. I want to live deep, said Thoreau. I want to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life, and not when I come to die and discover that I have not lived at all. That's a theme for me. It's a theme in here, and it's like coming to a place where you can trust in that, where you can get outside of your personality.
You are not an organism in an environment. You are an environed organism. One of the reasons the idea of being able to manifest is so foreign to most of us is because we have been brought up to believe that as individuals, we are separate from our environment. We think it is our role to dominate it. Armed with this kind of logic, we are diminished in our ability to sense our connection to the environment. This third principle of manifesting begins with the understanding that it is absolutely impossible to describe ourselves as separate from our environment. I am coining a new word for the purpose of articulating this principle. Consider yourself an environed organism. This word signifies that there is absolutely no difference between you and your environment. You are your environment, and even more significantly for the purposes of this tape, your environment is you. Try thinking of the external world, your environment, as your extended body. That is, you are not separate from the external world. In this concept, it is impossible to describe yourself without including your surroundings. In fact, it is not even possible to see or hear yourself as a separate entity apart from your environment. For example, describe yourself walking, just you walking. There cannot be walking without also describing what it is you are walking upon. Without the floor or the ground, there would only be your legs moving back and forth, and of course that's not walking. Your experience of walking also includes the air you are breathing, the gravity that keeps you from floating off into space, the pebbles or carpet or sand or cement that you walk upon. And I invite you to shift your awareness away from yourself as an organism in the environment to yourself as an extension of your environment and always inseparable from it. This means that you have to think of yourself as an individual and as an environment simultaneously. Have you ever seen a person with a front but without a back? Have you ever seen a person with an outside but without an inside? Well, these rhetorical questions are meant to stimulate you to consider how you can be differentiated and undifferentiated at the same time, and why this is important in learning to manifest your life as you choose. The nature of the physical world is essentially that of waves. Each wave of energy that makes up a physical mass has a crest or a peak and a nadir or a valley. These tops and bottoms of the waves are always easy to identify as separate, yet they are always together. You can never ever get a bucket full of peaks and observe them independent of their corresponding valleys. This is the fundamental feature of nature. Your front always has a back, your inside always has an outside. And now you must extend this understanding outward as well. You are distinct, just like the tops of the waves that make up your natural physical self, but you are irrevocably connected to the outer world, just as that bottom of the wave always has a top. When you begin to see this simple truth, mystical experiences of manifesting also open up to you as a genuine possibility. You see, you're either pushing nature around, or you're seeing it as yourself, one or the other. When we think of ourselves as distinct from our environment, we take on a posture of exercising control over it. We destroy forests and swamps and mountains and rivers and wildlife or anything else that obstructs profit and convenience over something we call advancing civilization. We defend these activities without understanding that we are also destroying ourselves. As we have seen, we cannot be described independent of our environment any more than our outside can be described without our inside. When we can respect that which appears to be external to us, we will build to live in harmony with, rather than in control over, our environment. In our personal lives, recognizing nature as ourselves opens up an entirely new world of manifestation. Your new faith will no longer permit you to see anything as separate. The separateness will always be there, just as the peak of the wave is separate from the trough. But they remain inseparable, even while separate. You will have fused the dichotomy that prevents you from putting this connective energy to work. You will begin to view yourself as an organic part of this world, rather than as a separate entity in this world. And then you'll see yourself as an organic part of this world. There's a popular belief that we come into this world. Thus, we are continuously embracing the idea that who we are and where we come from are two different worlds. The essence of the third spiritual principle for manifesting your destiny is that there is no separation, and rather than coming into this world as a construction project, you actually grow out of it. You are a result of what the universe is doing on a conscious level, just as a wave is what the ocean is doing, and a plum is what the plum tree is doing. The intelligence that is you, unseen as it may be, is you in every stage of your creation and life experience, and it is also the same in every other person, as well as in all things in our physical world. Notice that everyone breathes the same air, walks on the same ground, and thinks as an organism just like you. You are indeed connected to all of these beings. It is not an accident that someone living in a distant country with different outward physical characteristics and a separate language could die and donate their liver or kidney or cornea to you, and it would accommodate the life force flowing in you. A profoundly important Native American saying is, "No tree has branches so foolish as to fight among themselves." Imagine the result of such behavior by the tree. The tree and all of its parts would die from such an absurdity. Yet that is precisely what we do when we see ourselves as divided from all of the other people who are being peopled from the same divine intelligence. When you know that you grow out of this world just as an apple does from an apple tree, then you identify with the spiritual essence. It is in identification with this inner essence that you make your connection to everything else. And it is with this connection that you begin to attract your desires to your physical world. That power is in you, but it's not yours alone. The power and the magic of this world cannot be reserved for the exclusive use of anyone, including you. It is available at all times. However, it does not belong to anyone. What you are doing as an environed organism is making contact with an energy that is beyond the dualism of the earth plane, and yet is connected to it at the same time, separate but distinct. You are a holistic being with both non-dualistic energy and the energy of the physical plane at your disposal. The Bhagavad Gita, the holy book of the Hindus, summarizes the point of view as profoundly as I've ever heard. Listen to these words. He who sees that the Lord of all is ever the same in all that is, immortal in the field of mortality, he sees the truth.
I call it living from the end. This is one of the harder ones for people to get, but I'd like you to go again to the New Testament. Look at Romans 4:17. In the presence of him whom he believed God, who gives life to the dead and calls those things which do not exist as though they did. And calls those things which do not exist as though they did. Those are very important, significant words. You have to be able to call the things which you have not seen yet materialize and manifest into your physical world. You have to be able to say to yourself, I call those things that I would like to become as if they already do. And you place into your imagination fearlessly the I ams which you would like to create for yourself. And when it's time for me to write another book, I don't even know what it's going to be. I just know that it starts germinating inside me. And it's like a calling, it's like a passion. It's as if I call those things. The book does not exist. I call it as if it did. I have a wonderful quote by the man I've cited before. His name is Neville, and it goes like this. He says, disregard appearances, conditions. In fact, disregard all evidence of your senses. That is what your eyes and ears tell you, that deny the fulfillment of your desire, whatever it is you want to attract into your life. Disregard appearances, conditions, in fact, all evidence of your senses that deny the fulfillment of your desire. Rest in the assumption that you already are what you want to be. For in that determined assumption, you and your infinite being, your extraordinary self, which is what this program is about, are merged in creative unity, and with your infinite being, God, all things are possible. God never fails, and you are a piece of that which never fails. And you are going to move beyond just being a piece and just being a fragment and just being a segment until it becomes your overwhelming knowing that you have within you this divine capacity. You don't need evidence of your senses. I wrote a book a few years back
The title of it, I had to get my publisher because they didn't understand it. They called back, they said, I think you got this wrong. I said, no, it's called You'll See It When You Believe It. Not the other way around. People will say, well, I'll believe it when I see it. It doesn't work that way. You'll see it when inside you have a knowing. And Neville also said, therefore, to incarnate a new and a greater value of yourself, you must assume that you already are what you want to be, and then live by faith in this assumption. Now, this flies in the face of so much of what you've been told, because you have a tendency to believe that what your eyes and ears tell you is reality. But this is what we know by our senses. Just this little tiny fragment. I can't even get, it's like a millionth of a millimeter. And all that is unknown is in the invisible, in the imagination. And most of our attention is focused on, this is my beliefs and my disbeliefs about what is possible and what isn't possible are here. And it's an endless universe. So placing I ams into your imagination is one thing. It's an intellectual act. Living from the end means that you call the things which do not exist as if they did.
I'd like you to imagine the following scene. You're in your house. You've got your car keys in your hand. The lights go out. Power failure. You can't see a thing. You stumble around in your living room and you drop your keys. And you look around for a moment and you realize that you're never going to find them in the dark. But you look outside and you notice that the street lights are on. So in your mind, a light bulb goes off. I'm not going to sit around here in the dark and grope around looking for my keys when there's a light on outside. I'm going to go out here under the street light and I'm going to look for my keys. Why are you laughing? This makes a lot of sense. So you're out here and you're groping around and you're looking for your keys and you're looking and looking, and your neighbor comes along and says, what happened, Wayne? Well, I dropped my keys. Oh, well, I'll help you look for them. And the two of us are now down here looking for our keys. And looking, finally he says to me, excuse me, but where did you drop your keys? Well, I dropped them in the house. He said, you mean to tell me that you dropped your keys in the house and you're looking for them out here in the streetlight? Doesn't make any sense. And I said, well, it doesn't make any sense to grope around in the dark when there's light out here. Now you laugh and you think how silly that is, but isn't that exactly what we do when we have a problem, a difficulty, a struggle that is located inside and we're looking for the solution outside, someplace outside of ourselves?
If you were raised on blame, it is a habit for you to reach for this excuse whenever you wish to explain why something is not working in your life. You can, for instance, blame lack of prosperity on a lot of externals: your culture, the stock market, politicians, your parents, lady luck, the greed of others. You can blame illness on heredity and the flu season and bad luck or the environment. Your sour relationships can be blamed on your partners, their inability to love you, your upbringing, or your parents. Your personality can be blamed on your parents, or your genes, or your childhood, or your siblings, or your birth order. And your physical appearance can be the fault of genetics, the food manufacturers, advertisers, or the polluted environment. This is potentially an endless list. The alternative to blame is self-responsibility, becoming an inner-directed person. You may not have been taught to consider taking responsibility for the events of your life. But if you are unwilling to discontinue the blame game, you will be unable to initiate your sacred quest. When you are inclined to think that someone else is responsible for your circumstances, take an instant to say a prayer of thanks for the lesson. The lesson is to become aware that you are the one who is experiencing the feeling. You can do this the instant that you recognize yourself playing the blame game. Feel thankful toward those you've let anger you. Give inner thanks for the reminder that the feeling you are experiencing is inside you, not outside you. Say to yourself, I do not want to be right. I want to know the truth. I want my higher self to rule. No one is to blame for how I am feeling. It is my feeling, and I respect that. These kinds of affirmations will lead you to self-reliance and to the way of the sacred quest. Your spiritual soul will then become the guiding light for the remainder of your time in the now here.
We are in the midst of enormous individual and global change. I believe that all of us who are living at this time chose to be here to be a part of these changes, to bring about change, and to transform the world from the old way of life to a more loving and peaceful existence. In the Piscean age, we looked out there for our Savior. Save me, please take care of me. Now we are moving into the Aquarian age, and we are learning to go within to find our Savior. We are the power we have been seeking. We are in charge of our lives. If you are not willing to love yourself today, then you are not going to love yourself tomorrow. Because whatever excuse you have today, you'll still have tomorrow. Maybe you'll have the same excuse 20 years from now, and even leave this lifetime holding on to the same excuse. Today is the day you can love yourself totally with no expectations. I want to help create a world where it is safe for us to love each other, where we can express who we are and be loved and accepted by the people around us without judgment, criticism, or prejudice. Loving begins at home. The Bible says, "Love thy neighbor as thyself." Far too often we forget the last couple of words, as thyself. We really can't love anyone out there unless the love starts inside us.
Honoring your worthiness to receive. In order to become a manifester, literally taking part in the process of co-creating your life and attracting to yourself the objects of your heart's desire, you must know that you are worthy of receiving. This will mean examining the attitudes that you knowingly and unknowingly hold about your life. Your thoughts, which are the architects of the foundation of your material world, are what you want to examine. You can remind yourself all day long that the same power that brought anything into the physical world also brought you. But if you do not feel worthy, you will disrupt the natural flow of energy into your life and create a blockage that makes manifestation impossible. The fifth principle reminds you that you are worthy of abundance. If your thoughts are based on an image of unworthiness for any reason at all, you will manifest what those thoughts impart to the universal mind. The energy described in the fourth principle will align with what it is that you radiate. As a man thinks, so is he, are not just empty words. Thinking that abundance is incompatible with spirituality is a myth that influences many of us and is the largest impediment there is to feeling worthy. Take a look around your world and notice the abundance and endlessness of our universe. It goes on and on, beyond our ability to imagine its vastness. This abundance flows from the same energy that comprises our fundamental essence. It is you. You are it. Material form is how spirit makes itself known to us while we are in form ourselves. Spirit manifests in trees and oceans and fish, birds, minerals, vegetables, flowers, and you. When we adopt an attitude of spirit being incompatible with matter, we are denying the spirit that is in matter as its originating energy. We also deny the validity of ourselves as spiritual beings. When we shift to seeing that together they comprise one harmonious whole, we remove the stigma of selfishness. Just as each one of us is one harmonious whole comprised of spirit and matter, so too is the entire universe. The process of life taking form is a mystery. That mystery is governed by a creative energy that is knowable when we genuinely feel worthy of receiving its blessings in form. Abundance is the way of the creative force in the universe. You are entitled to have abundance in your life and to radiate prosperity to all that you encounter in your world. Nothing is gained by making yourself small and insignificant other than to manifest smallness and insignificance into your life.
This creative source reacts to your belief in shortages with a fulfillment of your belief. So if you believe and know and are certain that you can't attract abundance into your life, but I want to tell you tonight, you tuned in to somebody who knows about abundance. I have always been able to create abundance in my life. When I was a little kid, all the other kids in the places that I lived and so on, and even when we got back at home with my mom, pop bottles. You remember soda pop bottles? You could collect them, little knee-high bottles, and Pepsi-Cola bottles, and Coca-Cola bottles, and 2 cents if you took them back. I was a master at collecting pop bottles. I could manifest a pop bottle just like that. It was just... We used to have furnaces that had coal in them. And I would go along and I would empty people's ashes that they would set out. So just take it out to the alleys. I would go to the grocery store, and because my imagination was always working on abundance, I would carry groceries out for little old ladies. You know what I'm doing today? Right now? Collecting pop bottles. And taking out ashes. And taking out groceries for little old ladies. Just a bigger stage. See, if I came to this source and said, I don't have enough, this source doesn't know how to react to I don't have enough. This source is an endless supply. It's like the ocean. You can take a 10 million gallon tank to the ocean of abundance, and you can take it out every hour, or you can take a thimble once a year. And the ocean doesn't care. It makes no difference to the ocean, because everything returns to this source. Every time I walk, wherever I go, in fact, it happened to me this morning. I found a dime. A dime? That's like major, a dime. That's 10 pennies. That's 5 bottles. And whenever I bend over, and I notice that it gets a little further away, I bend over and I pick up this coin, and I always say, thank you, God, for this symbol of abundance that always flows into my life. Never once have I ever said, how come only a dime? I need $1,000. Why are you only giving me a dime? The face of abundance is like you have to come to this source not with what is missing, because it doesn't know. There's nothing missing. This source, which is the source of all, doesn't know about what's missing. When you say, please give me what is missing, it'll just reaffirm your belief in things being missing. You have to come to this source by being abundant, by being in a state of gratitude, by being thankful for all that you are, and seeing yourself as attracting more and more of that, and being willing to give it away.
Sai Baba was at a gathering of his 75th birthday about 10, 12 years ago, and millions of people had shown up in this little village that has just a few thousand people, but they were camped out in the mountains all around the area. And a reporter came up to him and asked him a question, hoping to embarrass him. It was a reporter from the West. And the reporter said, are you God? And he, without even hesitating, said, yes, I am. And so are you. He said, the only difference between you and I is that I know it, and you doubt it. And I guess that's one of the big knowings that I would like you to be able to have, is that there is some place within you that is God. And as Jesus said, with God, all things are possible. And I always ask, what does that leave out? And that leaves nothing out. Here's what Saint Germain says about in the I Am discourses. The moment doubt begins to enter, more doubt rushes in. The same with the I Am. If you put your attention upon it, it rushes forth more and more. Where the conscious attention is fixed, there the energy pours. Dear ones, says Saint Germain, do you not see, when you want something revealed or to be inspired in some way, do you not see, I am that? The moment you say I am, you set in motion this power that has inherent within it all these faculties. It has all substance and must take on whatever form the attention of the mind is fixed on. The I am, the name of God, is the fathomless mind of God. In reaching for understanding, the average student is but contracting the recurring memory of that which has been, instead of going into the heart of God and bringing forth that which never has been. Individuals and students many times do not and will not realize that there have been many civilizations of vast attainments which are entirely unknown to the outer world today. Atlantis and Lemuria, or the land of Mu, as credited by a few today, are but fragments of the great civilizations that have been. Like, we get this idea that it's all now in this world that we're in and it never existed before. To do unusual things, the students who wish to do this take the determined stand, I am the heart of God, and I now bring forth ideas and accomplishments which it has never been brought forth before. Consider only, I am that which I wish to bring forth. The I am presence is the heart of God. You are immediately in the great silence the moment you say I am. If you recognize that you are the I am, that whatever you declare is manifest in that moment. So, when I think about why it is that people aren't able to create the kind of miracles that this group is going to be able to create after we disperse, it's that we have to make our number one relationship, our number one priority, the number one thing in my life. I was talking about this yesterday over and over again with people, with individual people, that my number one relationship in my life at this point in my life is my relationship to God, my relationship to my source. It's number one. It's above my relationship to my children. It's above my relationship to any of you, the people that I teach, to people, individuals in my life that I love. My number one relationship, and your number one relationship, needs to be this I am presence that is within you, that is within each and every one of us. And when you can do this, the reason people can't do it is because our identification is so strongly tied into what our senses have told us about our life. When I talk about banishing doubt here, I'm asking you to ignore what your senses have told you and what your body experiences have told you, and go to the place that is God. Go to the I am that I am. Go to the place that says the divine God's work in me is my I am presence. And instead of saying this has been the history of all of this, this is why it's so difficult for me to overcome these addictions, to go to a place where you have an understanding that I have the capacity to transmute any kind of addictive behavior that I've had, just like that, instantaneously. With God, all things are possible.
You are a piece of God. You are a living, breathing creation that emanated from the universal mind of the all-creating source. You and God are the same thing. Very simply put, when you love and trust yourself, you're loving and trusting the wisdom that created you. And when you fail to love and trust yourself, you're denying that infinite wisdom in favor of your own ego. It's important here to remember that at every single moment of your life, you have the choice to either be a host to God or a hostage to your ego. So here's the question: host or hostage? Your ego's belief that you're separate from everyone, separate from what's missing in your life, and most egregiously, separate from God, further hampers your ability to live up to the intention of respecting yourself. Ego's idea of separation fosters your feelings of being in competition with everyone and evaluating your worth based on how frequently you emerge as a winner. As a hostage to your ego, self-respect is unavailable because you feel judged for your failures. It's out of this bleak picture produced by the negative ego that self-rejection emerges. It captures you and makes a hostage of you, never allowing you to play host to that from which you originated. Being a host to God means always seeing your authentic connection to your source. It's knowing that it's impossible for you to ever be disconnected from the source from which you came, Personally, I thoroughly enjoy being a host to God. As I write here every single morning, as I sit here in the studio reading these words, I feel that I'm receiving words and ideas from the power of intention, which allows me to bring these words to this page and to this recording. I trust in this source to provide me with the words. Therefore, I'm trusting in the source that brought me into this physical world. I'm eternally connected to this source. This awareness simply doesn't include a lack of respect for intending this book or this recording into form. The conclusion I've come to is that I'm worthy of my intention to write a book and to create this recording. In other words, I respect the peace of God that I am. I tap into the power of intention, and my feeling of respect for it enhances my respect for myself. So by loving and respecting yourself, you're hosting God and inviting the energy of creation to your consciousness, to your daily life, as you connect to the power of intention. Let's look at the energy of intention and your self-respect. If you don't believe that you're worthy of fulfilling your intentions for health, wealth, or loving relationships, then you're creating an obstacle that will inhibit the flow of creative energy into your daily life. Recall that everything in the universe is energy, which moves at various frequencies. The higher the frequency, the closer you are to spiritual energy. In the lower frequencies, you find shortages and problems. Intention itself is a unified energy field which intends everything into existence. This field is home to the laws of nature and is the inner domain of every human being. This is the field of all possibilities, and it's yours, just by virtue of your existence. Having a belief system that denies your connection to intention is the only way you're unable to access the power of intention from the infinite field. If you're convinced that you're unworthy of enjoying the field of all possibilities, then you'll radiate this very kind of low energy. This will, in fact, become your attracted energy pattern, and you'll send messages to the universe that you're unworthy of receiving the unlimited abundance of the originating spirit. Soon you'll act on this inner conviction of self-disrespect. The antidote to this dreary picture is to make an internal commitment to respect yourself and to feel worthy of all that the universe has to offer. If anyone is entitled to success and happiness, everyone is, because everyone is always connected to intention. Simply put, disrespecting yourself is not only disrespecting one of God's greatest creation, it's disrespecting God. When you disrespect your source, you say no to it, and you turn away from the power of intention. This stops the flow of energy that allows you to put your individual unbending intent into practice. All of the positive thinking in the world will do you absolutely no good if those thoughts don't emanate from respect for your connection to intention. The source of your thoughts must be celebrated and loved. And this means having the self-respect that's in harmony with the omniscient source of intelligence. What's the source of your thoughts? Your beingness. Your beingness is the place from which your thoughts and actions come. When you disrespect your being, you set into motion a chain reaction culminating in unfulfilled intentions. What you think of yourself is what you think of the world. How do you see the world you live in? What do you think people in general are really like? Do you believe that evil is triumphing over good? Is the world filled with egocentric, selfish people? Can the little guy ever get ahead? Are government entities and all their representatives corrupt and untrustworthy? Is life unfair? Is it impossible to get ahead if you don't have connections? When you have a gloomy picture of what the world looks like, you're unreceptive to the potential assistance that's there to help you with your own individual intentions. Why would others want to come to your aid when you view them as contemptible? Why would the universal force be attracted to that which repels it? How could a world that's so corrupt ever be of assistance to someone who has noble intentions? The answer to these questions are obvious. You attract into your life what you feel inside. If you feel that you're not worthy of being respected, you attract disrespect. This weak self-respect is the result of an exceptionally rusty link to the field of intention. This link must be cleansed and purified, and that takes place within your own mind.
We all are nervous sometimes, and we're shy sometimes, and we're afraid sometimes, and we don't take risks sometimes, and we're fearful, and we have to be careful, and those are all, that's what it means to be human. And we try to get as many people as we can on our side. So if we can get ourselves lumped with the majority, then we can feel greater. But every great innovative idea that ever happened started with a minority. Started with an individual thinking like that. Will Rogers said one time, if you find yourself on the side of the majority, you better reform. You know, if you're thinking just like everybody else thinks, what have you got to offer? What is it that this unique thing, this unique human being that has never existed before, will never exist again, has never existed in this day as it exists, as you do in this day, just like every single day. Not only are you unique on this planet, but every day you're here, you're unique on this planet. Instead of that, we say, how can we get everybody to think like I do? Let's get into majority kind of thinking, you see. And that's like one of the first things to understand, that in order to be, Emerson said it, he talked about conformity, he said, to be a man you must therefore by nature be a nonconformist. And yet we have difficulty with nonconforming people, with people who have different ideas, with people who want to try something different, people who don't accept that we always have to be the way we've always been. We have quite a bit of difficulty with that. Most human beings use about 1/100th of their potential within their brains that it's capable of using. And every time we see somebody who is able to do things that seem so phenomenal, instantly we say, well, that's a weird person, or that's a freak, they must be faking it, or whatever. When there are places in the world where people don't even think pain, they don't even have words. There are some cultures, particularly in Eastern philosophies, where pain itself is not even a part of their vocabulary. They don't even invent words for that because they train themselves not to think in ways that are going to be immobilizing and depressing and so on. And I would work on this when I was working with people early in my career. And one of the greatest things that you can learn in your life is the understanding that as you go through your life, even the people who love you the most are not going to approve of you half of the time. Somebody says, you're a nerd. Terrible thing. I mean, one of the things you have a choice. You say, oh my God, they know. They've discovered it already. And you act like a neurotic. You have that choice. You have other choices as well. The choice to ignore that. The choice to say that's somebody else's opinion. If somebody says to me, Wayne Dyer, I don't like your books. Well, I expect that when you say something in public, when you talk to a lot of people, when you write something, that there are going to be a lot of people who aren't going to like what you say. One of the highest levels, one of the highest places you can get to in your life is a place called being independent of the good opinion of other people. Not necessarily needing everyone to approve of you all of the time. And we ought to have a lot of people out there who understand that, so that when they go through their lives and they run into disapproval, that instead of becoming depressed about that, that you understand that that's a condition. That's what it means to be a human being. I'm saying don't become immobilized ever by what anybody else thinks of you. And when you do, understand that all you are doing is saying your opinion of me is more important than my own opinion of myself. Every time you're down. Every time you're down. That you are making other people's opinions of you more important. Now, a great misinterpretation there is that somehow this is a selfish philosophy. Believe me, there's nothing selfish in that. One of the simplest learnings that all children seem to understand, the very simple understanding that you can't give away what you don't have. You can't give away what you don't have, obviously. You can't give away $100 if you don't have it. You can't give away love for others if you don't have it for yourself. You can't give away success if you don't have it for yourself. You can't love another human being at all if you don't love yourself first and think of yourself as a worthy person. So that if you want to be a great altruist, a philanthropist, somebody who loves everybody in the world, then you've got to get your own house in order. And that's all I'm saying. Get your own house in order, your own self in order, so that you can become one of those people that have transcended, who have gone beyond simply worrying about how they're going to cope with their lives. It mystifies me sometimes. We all have this little child within us, and all little children know how to be happy. All little children know how to be self-actualized, fully functioning, creatively alive. They know how to enjoy their lives. And then somehow they lose it somewhere along the way. And as we get to be adults, we forget what we had. It's the whole theory of whether a glass is half full or half empty. I mean, it's always half full to me. Always half full. If you believe that it's half empty, it's the same thing as saying people are basically evil. And that's a basis for a big theory in psychology. That's what psychoanalytic theory is really basically all about, is that each one of us have an id somewhere within us, and that's an untamed monster. That's something that we have to watch out for, and it will capture us, and it'll destroy us, and it's that all of us have this evil creature residing within us. I can't buy that. I just can't buy that. I look at little children and the way they are, I don't see it. I refuse to think that, even though I know that there are people who behave in evil ways. I believe basically that within each one of us is a reservoir of love and beauty and appreciation and so on, and that we've often lost it in the name of trying to get ahead of the other guy or trying to be successful or whatever. People who know how to enjoy their lives are never a burden to anybody else. They just want to be left alone. Just quit bugging me. Don't always be looking over your shoulder. Don't be monitoring everything that I do. Stop telling me how to live. Stop telling me what to do. Stop trying to live your life through me. Highly functioning people know how to live their lives, and they're never a burden to anybody.
At any given moment in your life, you are choosing between two pictures or evaluations of yourself. Your choices include the one offered by your soul or the higher self, which I think of as the voice of God, and the one offered by the ego, or your false idea of yourself. You decide how you view yourself and how you view others as well. Essentially, you accept either ego's picture of yourself and others, or that of your higher spiritual self. In every moment of your life, you have the option to choose peace for yourself. The ego wants you in a constant state of agitation to keep you from embracing your higher self. It convinces you that if you are not always on edge, you can't grow. But you must keep in mind that experiencing this inner turmoil is a choice that you have made by allowing your false self to dominate your life. When you make the choice for peace, you are literally allowing God into your life. Learning how to specifically allow the higher part of yourself, rather than your lower identities, to be in control of your life. We all long for the peacefulness of being without turmoil and angst. There is a feeling of an inner glow when we know that we are on course, on our sacred path. So why do we so frequently choose the opposite emotions and thoughts and inner beliefs, which agitate our minds and cloud our perceptions and distort our relationships? You need to carefully examine your choices that block your experience of peace, of God. Just knowing that peace is always an alternative is a significant awakening. These tools will help to tame the ego when it demands that you pursue separateness or specialness. Replacing the turmoil that you so often choose is then a simple matter of allowing your higher self to take over in any situation where you are about to allow turmoil to enter. Your ego will push you in the direction of the fight, away from peace. You must be ready to see it as it is about to happen and invite your higher self to send your ego a not wanted right now message. I'm fond of this A Course in Miracles quotation concerning ego replacement. You will not find peace except the peace of God. Accept this fact and save yourself the agony of yet more bitter disappointment, bleak despair and doubt. Seek you no further. There is nothing else for you to find except the peace of God. When you have an absence of peace at any time in your life, know that your ego, the false idea of yourself, is what's really responsible. Keeping in mind that every thought has a physical counterpart, you can see that an ego-produced constant state of tension that comes with proving yourself, hurrying, chattering, worrying, chasing, acquiring, and competing also involves tension in the body. High blood pressure, ulcers, skin disorders, headaches, back pain, and even more serious ailments such as cancer, strokes, and liver disorders are the payoffs for the dominance of the ego. These disorders manifest because you allow ego to create turmoil to avoid the peace that is found within. This awareness of the ego's program should help as you move toward restraining ego and getting to know your higher self. The ego, that false idea that we all have of ourselves, wants to maintain this persistent state of inner confrontation for some very solid reasons. When you understand your ego, you are much more apt to work at restraining it. When you know why your ego behaves as it does, You will then be able to make the adjustments necessary for your higher self to have a greater influence in your life. Here are some of the most obvious reasons why your ego keeps you in this state of turmoil rather than peace. Most important, your ego has been with you since childhood. It has been nurtured by almost everyone you've ever known. Generations of those nurturers have also been dominated by their egos. Your ego wants to survive. If it can keep you in a state of inner turmoil, it will block you from knowing your spiritual self. From the ego's perspective, God is a huge threat, so it will do all that it can to keep you from experiencing that inner peacefulness where God's voice is so beautifully clear. Your ego does not want you to change. The idea of yourself as self-important and special nourishes ego, keeping it healthy and operating at full strength. Even though ego itself is an illusion, just a false idea that you carry around with you, it behaves as if it really had a life of its own. Your ego will make every effort to convince you that you do not need to change. In fact, if you're asking yourself why you shouldn't feel special, you are listening to it right now. These are the kinds of thoughts that have kept you from making the changes leading to inner peace. The ego thrives on fear. When you are afraid, you are at the mercy of the ego. Fear will drive you to behave in ways that undermine your sacred self. Your higher self tells you that there is nothing to fear, that love is the answer to everything, and that God is what love is all about. Your loving presence assures you that you do not need to feel guilty or fearful, and that if you do, it will subside when you experience inner peace. When you experience love within, you have no guilt and no fear. You know that everything you are experiencing is in order, including your woes, which are your greatest teachers, and the death of your body, which is ordained for all the world of the manifest. You know that death is a reward, not a punishment. Therefore, you have nothing to fear unless you listen to your ego encouraging fear and dismissing God. Your ego wants you to be on the move, looking for more things to consume and more possessions to own. The more you are on the move in your life, the less time you will have for knowing your spiritual base. Ego cheers you on to stay busy, to keep moving, and to avoid the inner quest where your ego faces restraint. Your ego wants you to face outward. It wants you to continue facing the wrong way so that you cannot experience the presence of God in your life. By facing away rather than inward, you ensure the strong presence of your ego forever. The consequences are that you will continually feel the pressure to compare yourself with others, the need to defeat others in order to feel powerful or even worthwhile, to have more and better toys, to accumulate more trophies. All of this facing outward is the work of the ego. When you refuse to listen, it shouts that you must be upset when others get ahead of you, that you are worthless when you lose, that being number one is more important than anything, that to settle for less is to admit to being a loser. All of these beliefs are deeply ingrained within you. It is very difficult for you to even imagine not having them because the work of your ego and the egos of so many others have been working overtime, convincing you that this is the only way to be. Facing outward brings about a sense of inner conflict and agitation that keeps you pursuing the gold stars that the ego offers. These are a few of the more obvious payoffs your ego uses to keep you in a confrontational rather than a peaceful mood. Keep in mind that you can restrain this ego simply by the power of your own will. All it takes is a determination to live by the dictates of your higher self and a willingness to act on that determination rather than succumb to the easier path of the ego. Another new way of being for me is to think of yourself in terms of personal authority rather than being an authoritarian. Personal authority. A person who has authority never needs to dominate anyone else, ever. Dominating doesn't become necessary. In business, you can have authority. The people who have the most authority are the ones who listen the most, and the ones who are the most conscientious about what do other people have to say. A person in a relationship who has to dominate somebody else and has to make the other person submissive shows that they don't have authority, because they're getting their power not from within for themselves, but on the basis of who they can control. And that never lasts. That never lasts. The only thing that lasts is having inner power, if you will. Know thyself. That's what Shakespeare said. Know thyself. The more you know yourself, the more you become honest with yourself, honesty becomes just a way of life. No, I don't think the world necessarily does, but you can't run your world. You can't run your world based upon what the rest of the people in the world want or don't want. To me, honesty is like, it's a karma that goes out into the world. How people treat you in the world is their karma. How you react is yours. And when you react to it with dishonesty, that's what you're putting out into the world, dishonesty. And when you put dishonesty out into the world, that's what's going to come back to you, because what goes out is what comes back. That all, as you sow, so shall you reap. I mean, it's in every great institution that there is in the world, whether it's a religion or a philosophy or whatever. What you put out is what comes back. Whatever you plant is what you're going to get back. And the more that you put out honesty, just because it's what you are, because you are being honesty, you're not trying to be honest, you're just being honesty, then that's what will come back to you on a regular basis. And when it doesn't, you'll just see that as another test for you to pass. For me, it has become a way of life. It's called serenity instead of acquisitions. The more you try to acquire, the more you try to get, the more you try to collect in your life and evaluate yourself on the basis of that, the less serenity you're going to have. More is less. It's almost a secret of the universe. Serenity means inner peace. It means that you can find joy in every moment that you have in your life instead of always looking for it. It means that while you are driving along the countryside, you know, and seeing, instead of saying, oh, I'm on my way to this point, that you can open your eyes and see it with new eyes. See the rolling mountains, see the grass, see the deer, see the sky. You can just stop wherever you are in this second, wherever you are, and just look around you, and you can begin to appreciate just your surroundings and your environment. Then you can begin to appreciate the people that are in your life, and even the ones that are negative and you're having the most difficulty with. You can practice a new way of being with them, which is sending them love, sending them flowers, send them books, send them a tape, send them something, and just see what kind of reaction that you get. Super emotional health is just an attitude. An attitude is everything. And it's being personally an authority on yourself rather than authoritarian and trying to be dominating someone else or to be dominated. And serenity, which is the name of my little girl, my youngest daughter, Serena, rather than acquisitions and accumulations and trying to prove yourself that way. And when you get that serenity, which comes from the way that you think always, then you will replace all of the other junk that keeps you back here between 6 and 1 on that clock. And once you pass it, once you get past it, you'll never, ever be able to go back. Because the light, living in the light, is a way of being that if you're not there, you don't get it yet, but once you see it, and once it begins to take over your life, you can never go back. That is your purpose. Your purpose isn't to try to be loving. Your purpose is to be love, and only have that to give away.
And here are the 7 faces of intention. The first face, the face of creativity. The first of the 7 faces of intention is the creative expression of the power of intention that designed us, got us here, and created an environment that's compatible with our needs. The power of intention has to be creative, or nothing would come into existence. It seems to me that this is an irrefutable truth about intention and spirit, because its purpose is to bring life into existence in a suitable environment. Why do I conclude that the life-giving power of intention intends us here to have life and have it in increasing abundance? Because if the opposite were true, life as we know it couldn't come into form. The face of creativity intends you toward continued creativity to create and co-create anything that you direct your power of intention toward. Creative energy is a part of you. It originates in the life-giving spirit that intended you here in the first place. 2. The face of kindness. Any power that has as its inherent nature the need to create and convert energy into physical form must also be a kindly power. Again, I'm deducing this from the opposite. If the all-giving power of intention had at its core the desire to be unkind, malevolent, or hurtful, then creation itself would be impossible. The moment unkind energy became form, the life-giving spirit would be destroyed. But instead, the power of intention has a face of kindness. It is kind energy, intending what it's creating to flourish and to grow, and to be happy and to be fulfilled. Our existence is proof to me of the kindness of intention. Choosing to be kind is a choice to have the power of intention active in your life. 3. The face of love.
The third of the 7 faces of intention is the face of love. That there's a life-giving nature inherent in the power of intention is an irrefutable conclusion. What would we name this quality that encourages, enhances, and supports all of life, if not love? It's the prime moving power of the universal spirit of intent. As Ralph Waldo Emerson put it, love is our highest word and the synonym for God. The energy field of intention is pure love, resulting in a nurturing and totally cooperative environment. Judgment, anger, hate, fear, or prejudice won't thrive here. So were we able to actually see this field, we'd see creativity and kindness in an endless field of love. This face of intention that is an expression of love wishes only for us to flourish and grow and become all that we're capable of becoming. When we're not in harmony with the energy of love, we've moved away from intention and weakened our ability to activate intention through the expression of love. Pierre Teilhard of Chardin put it this way, quote, "The conclusion is always the same. Love is the most powerful and still the most unknown energy of the world," unquote. The fourth face of intention, the face of beauty. The fourth of my 7 faces of intention is the face of beauty. What else could a creative, kind, and loving expression be other than beautiful? Why would the organizing intelligence of intention ever elect to manifest into form anything that's repugnant to itself? Obviously it wouldn't. So we can conclude that the nature of intention has an eternal interaction of love and beauty, and add the expression of beauty to the face of a creative, kind, loving power of intention. In order to grasp the significance of beauty as one of the faces of intention, remember this: beautiful thoughts build a beautiful soul. As you become receptive to seeing and feeling beauty around you, you're becoming attuned to the creative power of intention within everything in the natural world, including yourself. By choosing to see beauty in everything, even a person who was born into poverty and ignorance will be able to experience the power of intention. 5. The 5th face of intention is called expansion. The elemental nature of life is to increase and seek more and more expression. If we could sharply focus on the faces of intention, we'd be startled. I imagine that one of the faces we'd see is a continuously expanding expression of the power of intention. The nature of this creative spirit is always operating so as to expand. Spirit is a forming power. It has the principle of increase, meaning that life continues to expand toward more life. The power of intention is the power to expand and increase all aspects of your life, no exceptions. It's the nature of intention to be in a state of increased expression, so it's true for you as well. 6. The 6th face of intention is called unlimited abundance. This 6th face of intention is an expression of something that has no boundaries. It's everywhere at once and is endlessly abundant. It's not just huge, it never stops. This marvelous gift of abundance is what you were created from. Thus, you too share this in the expression of your life. You're actually fulfilling the law of abundance. These gifts are given freely and fully to you, just as the air, the sun, the water, and the atmosphere are provided in unlimited abundance for you. You were created from this very same unlimited abundance. The power of intention is everywhere. It is what allows everything to manifest, to increase, and to supply infinitely. Know that you're connected to this life force and that you share it with everyone and all that you perceive to be missing. Open to the expression of the face of unlimited abundance, and you'll be co-creating your life as you'd like it to be. The 7th and final face of intention is called receptivity. This is how I imagine the 7th face, the receptive face of intention. It's simply receptive to all. No one and no thing is rejected by the receptive face of intention. It welcomes everyone and every living thing without judgment, never granting the power of intention to some and then withholding it from others. The receptive face of intention means to me that all of nature is waiting to be called into action. We only need to be willing to recognize and receive. Intention can't respond to you if you fail to recognize it. You must not only become receptive to having guidance available to you to manifest your human intentions, but you must be receptive to giving this energy back to the world. As I've said many times in speeches and earlier writings, your job is not to say how, it is to say yes. Yes, I'm willing. Yes, I know that the power of intention is universal. It is denied to no one. By being receptive, I'm in harmony with the power of intention of the universal creative force. This works in so many different ways.
You'll see the right people magically appearing in your life, your body healing, and if it's something that you want, even becoming a better dancer or a card player or an athlete. The field of intention allows everything to emanate into form.
And when we look at what it means to live an inspired life, it's nothing more, in my estimation, it's nothing more than finding a way for you to be in harmony with the spiritual essence from which you originated. Not just in your actions, not just in your feelings, and not just in your behaviors of attending church or being nice once in a while, in every single thought that you have. And I'd like to suggest to you that inspiration is not something that comes and goes. It's not something that you have one moment and then in the next moment it disappears. And this is a whole new look at inspiration. To me, inspiration is living in spirit at all times and catching ourselves when we find ourselves disconnected from the spirit from which all of us emanated. It's really thinking like God. It's being more in touch with that place of origination. It doesn't come and go. When you live an inspired life, you begin to feel as if you're on purpose. I guarantee you that at the end of this show, you will not have to ask the question, what is my purpose, and how do I find it, and where is it, and how come I can't get it, and why does somebody else have it, and I don't seem to get it? It always seems to elude me. These will no longer be the issues that face you about being inspired. It's really about living day in and day out from this divine perspective of watching every single thought that we have and catching ourselves when we have a thought that is inconsistent with that divine source from which we all came. So that if you have a thought that includes you and your family, but excludes someone else and their family, no matter where they are in the universe, no matter where they are, no matter what they look like, no matter what side of the river they were born on, no matter what their cultural background might be, if you have a thought that includes some and excludes others at any time, you're not in spirit. You have left spirit and moved into something else, taking on a view of yourself as someone who is separated from your source. So that you watch yourself and you catch yourself, and a big part of this program will be about watching those thoughts. Many of you know that I had a very powerful and important teacher in my life when I was a young doctoral student. He was perhaps the most significant teacher in the professions of my life. He wrote a very important book back in the 1950s called Modern Man in Search of a Soul. His name was Carl Jung. And Carl Jung had others in his life who were students of his, and one of those was Abraham Maslow. And Dr. Maslow's work on self-actualization and higher consciousness and teaching people that if you want to help another human being, you always put your attention on what it is that they can do to improve rather than on what is wrong. So you don't talk about what is missing, what is wrong, what ought to be, what used to be, unless you want more of that to continue flowing into your life. You put your intention and your attention on what it is that you want to shift and change. And he had an observation. Maslow's observation was this. He said, what is necessary? What is necessary to change a person is to change his awareness of himself. So becoming inspired is really about changing your awareness of yourself. And what does this mean? It means shifting the belief systems that you might have, the thoughts that you've had over and over and over again that say, I am limited. I don't have the talent. I don't have the background. I don't have the luck that I need in order to be able to attract what I want into my life. Things have never worked out for me before. you change your awareness of yourself and your own body and what you believe about it. Like, how could you have a body that comes from a divine source that creates from well-being and have it be anything other than beautiful? Have it be anything other than divine? Have it be anything other than perfect? A perfect creation of God, of Source, of Spirit, is what it is that you carry around with you. And if you have any other thoughts about it, then you have to really work at shifting them, because it's an insult to that from which you came. When you trust in yourself, you're trusting in the very wisdom that created you. And inspiration is about having that. Indeed, it is about recognizing yourself as a genius, recognizing yourself as a person of unlimited talent and the capacity to be able to do anything. And there is absolutely nothing that I can't create if I can conceive of it in my mind and know that if I don't have the talent, that whatever talent is necessary, I can manifest it and have it show up and attract it into my life. Whatever financing is necessary, I have the ability to be able to connect myself to that. It's a knowing, it's a powerful knowing. I'd like to speak in this program about what I call the rewards for inspiration. Things that will be your payoffs, your prizes, if you decide to move into spirit, into this world of spirit that I'm speaking about here on PBS. Back in the 2,300 or so years ago, we're not quite sure exactly when, there was a great teacher in India. His name was Patanjali. And there are 6 of these things, and I want to cover each one of them in this program. He said, when you are inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, all of your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitations. 3, your consciousness expands in every direction. And 4, you find yourself in a new and a great and a wonderful world. Dormant forces, faculties, and talents come alive. And 6, you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. Those are the rewards. It's not like you're going to win the lottery. It's not, and you may. It's not that somebody's going to come riding into your life on a white horse or whatever. These are the rewards. These are the things that are going to be so powerful for you. All of your thoughts break their bonds. All of your thoughts break their bonds. What do we mean by your bonds? Your bonds are the thoughts that you have that keep you disconnected from your source. They are thoughts that are out of harmony with spirit, with God consciousness, with God realization. Because this is basically about being like God, being like Source, being like Spirit, being like Divine Mind, in everything, in every thought, in every action, more and more, connecting yourself back, catching yourself. So, the bonds are the ways that we think. I'd like you to imagine a ladder. And this ladder has 10 rungs on it, from the floor all the way up to the top of the ladder. And at the top of the ladder is the highest rung. And at the top of the ladder are the words, "This is my desire," and it's aligned with Spirit. Again, this is my desire, and it's aligned with Spirit. What is your desire? My desire is to manifest abundance into my life. Perfectly aligned. We came from an abundant source. My desire is to feel a sense of well-being in my body at all times. Perfectly aligned. My desire is to have divine spiritual relationships in my life. My desire is to get the job that I am working towards getting. My desire is to live in a place where I feel most peaceful and most loving. My desire is, and these, whatever it is, it doesn't make any difference. It's the 10th rung. It's the highest rung. It is your spirit
aligned with your desire. All right? So here it is. It's right up here. Now you have to ask yourself the question, what is it that I offer up to this 10th rung desire? All right? A 10th rung has to have, in order for it to manifest and show up in your life, it has to have thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that match up to that. And if they don't match up, you get out of harmony. See, thoughts are energy. Like everything in the universe, it's energy. Einstein said that nothing happens until something moves. The mistake that most of us make is that we attract what we don't want because our thoughts are on what we don't want. Or we continue to attract what's missing in our life. We're not at number 10, we're at about number 3. And what are some of these on these lower rungs? It probably won't happen. It's very difficult. These kinds of things have never happened for me before. I don't have this kind of luck. We've got the wrong people in the White House. The economy is bad. I don't have the ability to make it happen. I don't really believe it's possible. It's about what kind of energies we have within ourselves that we offer to what our desires that are aligned with spirit in order for them to manifest.
Your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind begins to transcend the limitations that you've had before in your life, and you stop seeing yourself. You stop seeing yourself as a human being. You begin to see yourself as a spiritual being, as the spiritual essence of who you are. And you literally, Mark, you step outside of your body, and you begin to observe it, and you begin to laugh at all of the folly of it and the foibles of it and the worries that it has, and because you begin to see yourself as an infinite being, not restricted by your birth and by your death and by your height and by your weight and by your looks and all of those the things that you've achieved in your life and your acquisitions and all of that. You don't define yourself that way anymore. You let go of those what Patanjali called the false self, the illusionary self, the Maya. That's not who you are. Who you are is that from which you came. And as you get back into that place from which you came, you absolutely know that in harmony with God, all things are possible. I mean, it's right out of the scriptures. With God, all things are possible. Now, I don't know how many people you got on the line, but let me ask every one of you. Now, what does that leave out? It absolutely, literally leaves out nothing. There's no thing at all that is not possible. If you can conceive of it and have that knowing and stay in spirit and do it from that place of passion, and passion is just love. I mean, God is love. I mean, that's also from the scriptures. God is love, and he that believeth in love believeth in me. I mean, love and God are synonymous. God and good are one. They're the same thing. There's no difference between the two of them.
If I have a simple tulip bulb in my hand, and I ask you to look at it and say, what is it? You'd say, well, it's just a grungy mass of biological matter. I say, but look at it more closely. And if it gets nurtured in a certain way, that is, it's watered and put in the ground, it will become a tulip bulb. Why? Because it has built into it a future pull. A future pull that you can't see or dissect or find in any lab. It has a future pull, a picture that is part of its DNA, part of its genetic inheritance. If you take a liver cell from your liver and look at it and dissect it, and it has a future pull, it will always be a liver cell. It will never be anything else. In order for you to be able to manifest magic, real magic in your life, miracles, you must first be able to conceive of it. You must be able to conceive of it, and that means no doubt. And the doubt comes by shifting to a knowing rather than a belief. All of this stuff, Deepak and I are talking now about taking a group, making a movie, and taking in this movie a group of babies that say 100 of them. And as they are born, we remove them from the environment that they're in, orphans and so on, children who are to be abandoned, and we place them into a world where there is no doubt. where they get past the lie. You know, we're led to believe a lie, as William Blake said in his wonderful poem, Songs of Innocence. He said, to see the world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wildflower, to hold eternity in the palm of your hand and infinity in an hour. We are led to believe a lie when we see with, not through the eye, which was born in a night to perish in a night, when the soul slept in beams of light. All of us are born in a night to perish in a night, in the physical world. But the soul, the spirit, resides and sleeps in formless beams of light. We are led to believe a lie, a huge lie. And the lie is that there are limitations in our life. Imagine these little children being raised in a world where doubt and impossible and can't do are never exposed to that. Anything that they can conceive of in their mind, they're able to practice. They go to fire putting out school, 101. And in fire putting out school, here's a fire over here, and you sit here, and you work on it with your mind. And you put that fire out. You know what my kids and I do after dinner? Many times after dinner in the evenings, a couple times a week, we go out and we put blankets on the grass. And in the blankets on the grass, we look up at the sky. And we kids say, I'm going to make clouds. Who wants to make clouds? I want to make clouds, Daddy. I want to make clouds. I'm going to make a rabbit. My kids, all the people in the neighborhood think that my kids are neurotic. Those Dyer kids think they can make clouds. Why not? The same intelligence that flows through them flows through the clouds. Why not shatter the illusion of your separateness and believe that? Imagine a whole curriculum, a whole world in which you were raised to know that there was no doubt. And you can transcend that doubt. And when you do, you begin to see that miracles, synchronicity become very much a part of your life.
That you have within you the power to not only trust in yourself and in this divine wisdom, and also that you are connected to it through being a part of the environment as well as the environment being a part of you, but to also know that there's an energy, there's a force that will be used to bring to you what it is that you seek. So some of the things that you can do to access this force and to begin to have things show up in your life through this energy is when you first wake up in the morning, ask yourself, how did the conditions of my life that I would like to change first come about? How can I facilitate making conscious contact with my unlimited, invisible source of energy? In other words, stop just seeing yourself as someone that is separate from all of the things that have happened in your life and recognize that there is something that you have been doing to manifest everything that's in your life already. It didn't just happen. Somehow, in some perhaps mysterious way, all that has showed up in your life showed up because of your own inner world and how you connected to it. So just look around and ask yourself, how did this spouse show up? How about these children? How about this furniture that I have? How about this job that I'm in? All of these things, what role did I play in this? Was this just a fortuitous accident of nature, or am I collaborating in some way that I don't quite understand with the forces of nature that bring things to me? And then begin to take some responsibility for it. Secondly, I would explore the possibility that perhaps the reason you believe that life is limiting is because you've assumed limitation to be in your life. If you don't assume there are any limitations in your life, then those limitations begin to go away. And all of the limitations that you experience and see in your world are really that which is in the physical world. There are only limits in the physical plane, in the right-hand side of the room, as I put it. All of the stuff that you see. Yes, there are beginnings and ends to all of that, as our senses perceive them. But in fact, that's really not who we are. Who we truly are, that divine being that is in all things, is unlimited. And when we can give up our forfeiture of our ability to get into that world, we also give up the world of limitations. Whatever picture you are able to create mentally will assist you in knowing that the creative energy is flowing through you. So work on these pictures that you have and make sure that the inner pictures you have of what it is you would like to have, these visualizations, are working with you rather than against you. When you are able to internally picture yourself cooperating with the divine intelligence, it will cooperate with you. If you can't picture this for yourself, if you can't get that inner picture, then you will manifest whatever it is that you are picturing, which is doubt. Another thing that I would remind myself is to never limit the spirit in any way. Talk to your spirit. Talk to this divine intelligence that is you, that is even giving you the power to talk in the first place and to think. And tell the spirit what you want without telling it how you want it to happen. Then retreat in faith and trust. Also, I would keep your mental picturing to yourself. Keep it secret. Keep it private. What you want to attract is between you and God. And the moment that you need to prove it or you need to share it, you take the energy away from its accomplishment and onto the reactions of others. Another thing to do here is to examine all of the supposed lacks and scarcities in your life. Then remind yourself, I created all of this with my thoughts and my conditioning and my beliefs and my actions of my past. Taking responsibility for all that has shown up in your life is the way to transcend the things that you no longer want to show up. Also remember that what you think about is what you become. The great secret of the universe. The strangest secret, as my friend Earl Nightingale used to say. What you think about is what you become, what you think about all day long. Be conscious of every thought or every picture that ends up in your head, because that's what you will manifest in your life. And if you're doubting that, then you will manifest the doubt. And finally, I would recommend that you begin to act as if what you really want to attract to your life is already here, because it couldn't be anyplace else. Everything that's in the universe is already here. You don't create anything, you just redistribute, and you just attract that which is already here to your life. And so, if you are acting as if what you want is already here, if you're thinking you'd like to have health, then you start thinking that I'm healthy. If you think that you'd like to have a divine soulmate show up in your life, you act as if that person is there. And you begin to have conversations with that person and expect that person to show up. If you have inner views about attracting prosperity for yourself, then you begin to act prosperous. You go to places where people who live prosperously are hanging out. You walk around car dealerships that reflect this kind of consciousness. You always act as if what you want is already here. It just hasn't aligned yet with your intention. And that's what manifesting is, the alignment of your intention with divine purpose.
Everything in this universe is energy. That energy doesn't come in good and bad. It comes in high and low. It comes in fast and slow. That the energy that we live with and breathe with and is surrounding us at all times is really much more in our control or even in our ability to change than we have been conditioned to believe in our lives. In fact, energy and energy medicine and the idea of energy is a whole new world of investigation. And that there are certain principles, there are certain ways of living, and certain things that we can do that can help to bring our energy into the higher and faster energies. The slower energies will calibrate to make us weaker. The slowest of them are shame and fear, self-doubt, anxiety, depression, and so on. And that each time we have a thought, which is the source of our energy, of any one of these kinds of lower and slower vibrations, that we impact our bodies, our environment, our families, and ultimately our universe. So that we almost have an obligation not to think depressing thoughts. Not only because it will impact us negatively in our physical bodies, but because it will literally impact all of those around us as well.
And as we become very conscious of our thoughts and the fact that they represent an energy and they can result in our being weaker or stronger, we can become conscious of how quickly we can shift those energies and how easy it is rather than how difficult it is to make those shifts. In an instant, you can utilize something like japa, the repetition of the sound of the name of God, in the moment of stress or anxiety or fear or shame. You can use that no matter how much your ego and the part of you that demands that you be right insists that you not do this. You can literally just do this for a minute or two or three and shift it and find that it disappears. I want to show you this map of human consciousness. Map of human consciousness goes from a frequency that he has created called 1 to 1,000. And the lower the frequency, that is the slower the vibration, the more it will keep you weak. And anything below 200, by his formulation after 29 years of study, anything that calculates or vibrates or calibrates lower than 200 will weaken you. It will take away your strength. And anything above 200, up to as high as 1,000, will empower you. So below 200 is force, above it is empowerment. The lowest level in this map of consciousness is called shame. That when you are experiencing a shameful thought, you will weaken yourself. The next up is guilt. The next up is apathy. All of these will weaken you. The next is grief. Grief itself, even though there's a lot of people making a strong case for it, to grieve is to weaken yourself. Fear, which has as its emotional counterpart anxiety. Craving, or ultimate desire. Anger and pride, which is scorn and hate, are all going to weaken you. Now, the ones that will strengthen you, starting from the lowest ones that will strengthen you, that calibrate at 250 and above, are neutrality, which has an emotional correlate of trust, and then willingness, that calibrates at 310, and that's optimism, and then acceptance, which is forgiveness in the emotional realm, is 350. Reason and understanding calibrate at 400. Love and reverence at 500. Joy at 540, and serenity. And finally, peace at 600 is the highest that most of us will ever reach. Peace and bliss will always empower you. Now, I'm just talking about thoughts here, just thoughts of peace and bliss. Whereas the highest one, enlightenment, which is the emotion of ineffability, calibrates between 700 and 1,000 when you're out there athletically competing. That if your energy or your attention is on force, that is on being able to defeat your opponent, you will always calibrate weaker. It will make you weaker. When your emphasis is on defeating someone else or trying to overcome them, and they can measure what thoughts you have, and when they're on that, you will become weaker and you will perform at a lower level. But when you put your energy and your attention on performing at the most empowering level that you are capable of performing at, and using your God-given abilities and talents to just allow yourself to go out there and connect at the spiritual level and perform, you will always perform at a higher level, and you will calibrate strong rather than weak. And this principle of contemplation is so intriguing to me. How many times I have said to my children,
contemplate yourselves surrounded by the conditions which you intend to produce. You get what you think about, whether you want it or not. This thing that we call our thoughts is really the highest place within us, and we can use them to be thoughts that are aligned and think like God thinks, or we can use them as excuses and misalign ourselves and remind ourselves that God doesn't need any excuses. And so as you think of yourself as a God-realized being, you won't be doing that either. Contemplation is the continuous use of your thought process. How you use your thought process to train your mind in a new way. Remember, we are training ourselves in this seminar to elevate our concept of ourselves to a place that matches what it is that we would like to live out and attract and be in our lives. That's what we're doing. We're shifting our conception of ourselves and beginning to see ourselves as pieces of God from which we can never be disconnected. Secondly, your thoughts are actually like things that act to begin the process of materialization. So that what you think about ultimately becomes what you become and what becomes of you. If you contemplate with thoughts that match originating spirit, which is Thomas Troward's word for God, if you contemplate with thoughts that match originating spirit, then you will have the same power as originating spirit. That's an alarming thing to think and say. As you begin to contemplate in the same way that the creative force of the universe contemplates, then what you do is you shift out of your excuse pattern of things can't happen and won't happen into I am thinking in such a way that originating spirit thinks, and therefore if I continue to stay there, I will have the same power as originating spirit, because you are originating spirit. You can't be separated from it. When contemplation is a vibrational match to originating spirit, you gain the cooperation of divine mind, attracting and fulfilling your desires. Let me say it again. When contemplation is a vibrational match to originating spirit, and everything is vibration, every thought is vibration, you gain the cooperation of divine mind, attracting and fulfilling your desires. Contemplation, next, is therefore a kind of action in and of itself, which sets into motion all of the creative forces of the universe. You want to set into motion the energy that will allow you to attract into your life what you want. You want to be not thinking about a BMW in your driveway or a new Rolex on your arm. You want to be thinking like God thinks and living from those cardinal virtues, and recognize that you do not attract into this world what you want. You attract what you are. And as you become it, and it becomes you, it becomes limitless. And a BMW makes no difference. When you rely on excuses, you allow your false self, the ego, to contemplate what you do not want or what you cannot have. Do you get that? When you rely on excuses, you give evidence that you contemplate what you can't have or what you don't want. Every time you come up with a reason why you can't do something or you can't have something, you are giving evidence that you are contemplating in a way that is not aligned with originating spirit. Therefore, you lose the power of originating spirit. Return to the ego. Every excuse you ever use for anything is evidence that you're contemplating what you can't have. Now, why you would want to contemplate what you can't have or what's missing in your life is a meme handed to you, because basically you've been taught you're not worthy of all of that. God is worthy of that. You're not God. There's nothing more blasphemous than saying you are God, except we've been saying it here a lot. The presence of excuses in your life is evidence that you contemplate what you can't have or can't do, rather than the infinite possibilities that are inherent in your divine self.
That everything in the universe is energy. And energy doesn't come in good and bad, and it doesn't come in right and wrong. It comes in high and low, and it comes in fast and slow. And that very quickly and very simply, energy moves from low to high. And that energy moves like the world of the solid, which we think of as stationary, is really nothing more than energy that has been slowed down so that it vibrates approximately to the frequency of your senses. So that the reason that your hand appears to be solid is not because it's solid at all, but because your eyes, which observe it, are vibrating at approximately the same frequency as that which you are observing. Because you know that if you take your hand and put it under a microscope and turn up the magnification, you're going to see a dance. And the more magnification you get, the more dance of particles that you get. First you'll get molecules, then you take a molecular microscope and you turn that up, and you see inside the molecules there are atoms. You take an atomic microscope and you turn up the magnification, and inside the atoms of this thing called your hand, there are electrons and neutrons and protons and so on. Then you turn up the magnification on the electron microscope, and you find that there are subatomic particles. And then you turn up the magnification further on these quarks, and you find out that they're tinier particles. And until you put them in a particle accelerator, these tiniest particles, and you ram them together at 250,000 miles an hour until they collide, and then you open up the particle accelerator and you look inside and you discover there are no particles, that everything is just energy. And it goes back to what St. Paul said, that which is seen hath not come from that which doth appear. That everything in the universe is just energy, and it's just everything is moving, but some things move faster than others. So that the world of the solid is a very slowed down energy. It's just energy that's been slowed down. It approximates the frequency at which your eyes and your ears are processing and picking up things. And then you move to a faster energy, which is the energy of sound. And the energy of sound is nothing more than sound waves that are out there. We can't see them, we can't get a hold of them, but you just take an oscilloscope and an audiologist and you can pick up the sounds, and the sound energy just goes high, and it goes low, and it goes fast, and it goes slow, but it doesn't come in problems. There are no problems in what you hear or what you see. There's only energy moving fast and slow, high and low. It only becomes a problem when you process it in a certain way. And then we move to a faster energy, the energy of light, which moves faster than the energy of sound. And then we move to the energy of thoughts, and every thought that we have has an energy. And in a wonderful book called Power versus Force, Dr. David Hawkins has elaborated a system called a map of consciousness, in which they identify every thought that we have and its energy component. So that lower energy, that a thought of shame, for example, and a thought of hate, and a thought of fear, and a thought of stress, and any of these kinds of lower energy thoughts are thoughts that weaken us. And I'll talk more about these in the last principle in this program, the 10th principle. And then we get to looking at what thoughts and what energy they have, and why would I have certain thoughts if they weaken us, until ultimately we get to the fastest and the highest energy in the universe, which is the theory upon which a spiritual solution to every problem is based, the notion that spiritual energy is the fastest energy in the universe. And that when we bring the energy of spirit to the presence of the energy of problems, because all of our problems show up in the world of form, in the world of the solid. That's where we have them. And when we can bring spiritual energy to the presence of spirit, or to the presence of form, rather, we nullify that. So that if you're in a dark room and someone brings a candle into that room, what is happening is that you don't have to announce to the darkness, you'd better dissolve now, you're going to have to get out of here because I'm bringing light in here. Darkness, rather, cannot survive when light is brought into a room because light is a faster energy than darkness. And it's a metaphor for the prayer of St. Francis. Where there is hatred, if I can bring love to the presence of hatred, hatred cannot survive. And it was the message of the greatest spiritual teachers who ever walked among us, and all religious practices are based upon this idea of bringing higher and faster energy to the presence of lower and slower energy. And when we do that, we dissolve and nullify it and make it impossible for it to exist. So that if we can think and change around the energy of our thoughts, and in Power versus Force, Hawkins speaks about how to go about doing that in ways that I consider to be brilliant.
You know, they say that when Christ would go into a village, just his presence in the village would raise the consciousness of those around him. Just his presence in the village. Just the presence of Mother Teresa in a room, this 4'10", wizened little old lady who ministers to the poor in Calcutta and describes it as doing the work of Jesus in all of his distressing disguises. Seeing Jesus in all of his distressing disguises is how she described it. That kind of consciousness permeates out. And we can have that when we shift our attention away from what is wrong and the hatred in the world. I mean, I get asked that question over and over again, yes, but what about this? And yes, but what about that? I say, I send out loving energy to every person I see on the street. I don't care what they look like. It doesn't make any difference whether they're clerks or whether they're waiters or whether they're people who walk by and smell bad or whatever. I look at them and I see the unfolding of God in every one of them. That is my challenge, to be able to do that and send it. And when you do, you impact not just that person and yourself, but the whole consciousness of the world.